Greetings, and thank you so much for joining today. This is Coping Together, and I am Charlotte Melton with the Mental Health Association of Central Florida. Our episode today is for Women's History Month. We're offering hope to women in mental health. And today I have with me Vickie Lewis, the CEO of Central Florida Behavioral Hospital. I'm so grateful to have you, Vickie. Thank you.
Thank you.
Vickie joins us as a leader in the Central Florida mental health community. She has a rich family life and honors the mentors that have helped guide her to this place. And so I'm grateful to have Vickie's insight. Throughout your career, have you seen that there are unique challenges to being a woman in the field, or do you think it's actually been an asset?
I believe, Charlotte, that it's really been more of an asset for me versus a hindrance. Now, I recognize the favor and the blessings that I've had upon me by the people that I've worked around. I've had female supervisors and I've had male supervisors, and both have just really been sources of encouragement and help for me to become who I am today. I started out as a registered nurse and became a chief operating officer and a CEO. And it really was a male supervisor that identified that he felt like I could move into more leadership. So I appreciate that. I think if I were to tell you honestly, my strength with that and why I think being a female has been an asset is just the nature of who most of the time we as women are. I'm a very sensitive person, and that's my strength. It's also my weakness. I can assure you of that.
I understand that.
And the nurturing in me is a strength, but I also have to recognize that can move toward a weakness too. But I believe being a female is not something that should limit anyone in believing that they can become anything or anyone that they want to be.
I love that insight, the perspective of as rich as you can feel as a woman, balancing those things as your strengths. And I think some insight into ourselves, as you say, you've grown as a human and a professional in this, you can find this is when it's powerful and this is maybe when it wears on me. So that's uplifting to hear, and that's exciting to celebrate in Women's History Month, that males are uplifting women and that you are proof in the pudding and that you get to pay that forward as well to your staff equally.
That's right.
Ugh. Well, we are continuing that exciting voice. The Mental Health Association of Central Florida has origins that are deeply rooted in advocacy and uplifting lived experience, which is why I really appreciate your authentic expression. Is there a facet of women's mental health that you think is really critical for people to know?
Being a female in today's world, or being a male, either one, but especially we're talking about females, it's not the easiest thing. And, Charlotte, when you look at the statistics, those 5 top things that we look at mental health issues for women, look at depression. I mean, depression is 2 times more than it is with men. If you look at anxiety, it's 2 times more than men. If you look at PTSD, while we look at our veterans and know that's very high, when you take the other population, it's still 2 times higher than it is with males. And then suicide attempts, while suicide itself is actually 4 times higher, that actually is completed with men, it is 3 times higher than males with attempts. And then eating disorders, statistics show you that about 85% of cases of eating disorder with anorexia and bulimia is with women and 65% with binging. So when you look at those aspects right there, it tells you a whole lot. In a very rapid pace world with females, we're just set up. I think highly from the perspective of look at our hormones. We go through development of puberty, and then there's
So
the
many
monthly
cycles.
surge of hormones and pregnancy and menopause. All of that with females just kind of sets us up for being a proponent of some of these things if we don't look at it, acknowledge it, and then manage it.
I think that's so eye-opening, but still hopeful because, as you say, when you look at it and you manage it and you address it, you don't underestimate that this is really something going on with me. And even though there are a lot of high expectations of me as a woman, that these risks are realistic and might be really relevant. And I love to hear that, not that women are just at risk, but and to panic about that, but to just look inwardly very clearly and to address our needs and to take them seriously when they come up. You touched so smartly on the connections of depression and suicide risk. That was one of the pieces that I love to talk up when we talk about health disparities. CDC did a study in 2019 that 1 in 10 women in 2019 experienced an episode of major depression. That's in 1 year period studied, 1 in 10 women experience this. And as you said, the attempt rates are higher. Now, lethality levels, we can get into that with a whole other episode, but the risk of experiencing these suicidal thoughts, we have to honor that depression is a common and serious mental illness, and that when left untreated or without supportive treatment, it can lead to risk of suicide. So this is a life or death conversation about women
Yes,
in mental health. So I appreciate it that you offered some insight there of look in and touch on what's real. Would you offer any additional direction to any women who are watching right now?
you really want me to?
Absolutely.
Let's just talk about some things. I think when we look at the busyness of our world and all of the things that we've gone through, especially in these last 2 years, and Charlotte, for us, I've had the question of me of, okay, now do you think mental health is going to be in a better place now that we're coming out of the pandemic? And it's like, oh my goodness, no, not at all. I don't think we've even begun to see the beginning of what we're going to see as now a pandemic with mental health. And what do we do about it? And how do we really kind of help each other out to foresee some things that can happen? Because I think we think some people have these things that we just talked about, depression and suicidal thoughts and etc. But a person's world can get so chaotic and upside down. It can be anyone. And we should acknowledge that. And we should watch for signs with those that we're around and try to help them out. So, I knew that we were going to do this today. And I thought about what are some of the things that help to stabilize me as a person, because certainly I'm an individual that has a very, very full life and love it, but it's busy and there's a lot of demands on me and it's every day. And yes, I've walked through the pandemic for the last 2 years with watching, people be sick and family members die and holding staff members and acknowledging parents when they got to be out because the school has just decided they had to quarantine for all of the appropriate reasons. I'm not questioning any of those things. There's been a lot of demands. And I looked at my own self and I thought, okay, what stabilizes me? And one of the things, Charlotte, that I do, and this is a daily consistent thing for me, is I have what I call my thinking chair. And I make sure that there's time in my day for my thinking chair.
That is
Saw you
so
pause there.
profound.
Some people, it may be yoga, other people, it may be exercise. We all know, I bet you could poll every woman in the world and they would tell you those critical things that will help keep you healthier. Sleeping right, eating right, exercising,
The
all of,
water. Yeah.
deep breathing, all of those things. We all know it, but then there's the reality of how do you do it? How do you apply that in everyday life? We can hear these sermons all the time, but then how do you apply it? So for me, my thinking chair, and while it may be different for me than someone else, is find your own way of how do you sit down and think about what's good in your life? What's lovely? What are those things that are just special and precious and not miss it? And then one of the things that, and I keep saying one of the things, I should stop that right now, but
Perfect.
for me, some of my role models, my mother, my grandmothers, they're so precious in my life. They have now gone on, but they taught me that I was unique and special, one of a kind. And every single person on this planet is that way. No one is different. So I pause in that early morning, and whatever time I have to start, I make sure there's 30 minutes earlier that I can just sit down and find that quiet time of meditation and devotion for my own self that sets the stage for the day. It's like getting ready for me. I think treasuring our moments. Don't wait for some hallmark moment. One of our local channels says, take a moment to make a moment. And I just love that phrase. It's just so special to me. And I did this the other day with my granddaughter, who is turning 4 this week. And I just absolutely adore. She's the most treasured, special little individual that has taught me so very much. And we decided to do our first brunch. And in that brunch, I chose to allow her to go into the china cabinet and choose our china dishes. And then I said to her, now we got to be very careful because we can break them. And now let's choose a glass that we can drink out of, the crystal. She chose a little sherbet glass because it fit her hand, and we took it outside to the porch and we sat outside. And I knew for me that there was some risk in breaking the china. But for me, the glow on that child's face that she was getting to do something that she knew was really, really special was far more valuable to me than the risk that it was going to be if a piece of glass got broken. And I think every individual is like that we're working around. We should see them as unique. They're like china and crystal. And what do we do to acknowledge that in them? And if they make a mistake, they made a mistake. It's not the end of the world. Protect that and let them really blossom as to where they're at and who they are, and continue to grow, because that certainly happened with me. I have not been perfect through my life, and just ended up as a CEO of a hospital without making a lot of mistakes along the way. So when you make those mistakes, you just take them as opportunities to learn from. But also, we as women should do that with everyone around us, whether it's our coworkers, our friends, our spouses, our children, grandchildren, whoever it may be. I also found that what's important for me is to make a big thing out of gratitude, to make a big thing out of thank yous, and looking at what I can be thankful for in my life and thankful for in others, the things that they do for us to help us along the way. It's huge when we have a generous heart, and we're generous with the people around us, thankful for what they do for us and not taking it for granted, whoever
So
they
rich.
are. It will change your life when you become thankful instead of always. I don't believe we as women, the last thing in the world we should ever do is try to walk on someone else to get to where we want to be. You don't have to do it. It's not necessary.
And you
For
touch on
people to,
something that comes in with the power struggle that happens for women a lot. I apologize. Let me handle this
no, go
here.
ahead.
But no, it's exciting to me to hear you talk about this richness, this sensitivity, this empowerment that's not just honoring ourselves, because sometimes the balance is, okay, women, if we need to uplift, let's lift ourselves right on up and put ourselves right out there. But I'm hearing it in a wellness tool bag that's not always offered, which is gratitude, highly recommended, but also living richly, that you're putting rich experiences that are special to you and show others that they're special. That so reverberates. It's not just sitting and reflecting as part of my wellness, but that your wellness involves others and that it balances things. I hear you talk about your full schedule and your rich life with all the things you're doing, but you also have these moments. And I can't stop picturing your granddaughter with that little sherbet glass in her hand, and the
Precious.
perfect weather it had to be, obviously, because I have this Hallmark video in my head now. It's so wonderful. I think that's such a realistic and applicable tool that we need to take advantage of, women and men, but especially women, as you're saying, not having to step on others, but celebrating others and ourselves is a tool for ourselves, but also a cultural shift, that lifts us up. I'm just soaking it all in. You have so much to share, and it's so profound. So I'm so
Well, you
thankful.
said it. You said it so well, Charlotte, that you almost, as a female, want, or as a person that is achieving what you want. This is not manipulation when I say this. Promote others around you. It comes back to you, but you want the people that are doing things, don't take the credit for him yourself, but let them take the credit. And it's like a flower garden that begins to bloom around you. And it's just beautiful. And I love mentoring young women and young men too, not just women, but young men as well. And seeing them become all that they wanted to be and never believed that they could be, that is the highlight for me. It's just, I hope, a legacy mark for me.
Well, I couldn't think of something that would tie better into our episode of offering hope for women in mental health is you can be all that you dream to be, especially if we support each other and lean on others. So thank you, Vickie, for your insight and your powerful words. It's an honor to collaborate as agencies and people. And I want to say thank you to you, and thank you to everyone who tuned in today. So wishing everyone well.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlotte.